Oh, hello to the people who've clicked on this video after it's been posted, after I went live, did the whole shindig. Guess what? You're my favorite. You know why? Because not many people actually watch the live stream after it's posted, which I find to be really annoying and kind of frustrating, but at the same time, it is what it is. So anyway, hello and good morning, everyone. Hope you all are thriving, not just surviving. Sorry, I don't want to yawn on camera in case it's contagious. I've heard that yawns are actually contagious, which is kind of weird, but I trust science. So today we're going to continue talking about the farming crisis. See, I don't think that this is getting enough media attention for how bad I feel like it's really going to become. And we're going to talk about the realm of cattle, but then also soybeans in particular. And I also think that our American our American journalism, machine, certain things they don't understand as well. They're also motivated to try and grab the clickbait stories or try to frame it in a way that makes readers want to tap on it and stuff like that, which is, I understand, which is frustrating, but I understand. I think that there are certain topics that become so complicated to communicate to the masses that they just don't put in the effort. But here's the thing. As a younger person who always has to sift through all the media to know what's opinion and versus fact, I'm here just to deliver the raw, factual information about what's going on. If you disagree with my take on my opinion or how I present it, if you disagree with what I think needs to happen, then that's fine. That's cool. But I'm also here just to give you the raw factual information about everything happening in regards to the farming crisis. Because I don't think that our journalism isn't doing a great job at covering it. And I think it's going to become a really big problem, personally. From what I've been able to see, I think that it's going to become a huge issue in the coming days. And it's not just in regards to cattle, it's also in regards to soybeans and crops. So yesterday we had a really awesome live talking about this. I wasn't able to be live for very long, but I'm excited to be diving a little bit more into it here for you all. So anyway, I appreciate every single one of you. Oh, Seabar, hello. Akicha, hello. Kate, hello. How's everyone doing? Whew. I also had a different type of coffee this morning, so that might affect me or the way I do, my news and everything like that might affect me a little differently. But that all being said, let's get into the news here, shall we? I appreciate every single one of you. All right. So let's start. Here we go. Oh, that was a horrible tongue pop. Hold on. I can't be gay and not do a good tongue pop. Hold on. Oh, look at the little tomato. Hello. Wait, what is that? A cup of joe? What in the world is that? Wait, you can send gifts like that now? Ooh, pumpkin on head. Oh, thank you, cup of joe. That's super cute. Oh my gosh, that just made my day. Can you be gay and conservative? That's not a question that I am not able to answer, Thanks for providing important information. Oh, you bet, Seabar. Thank you for being here. Seabar is a good friend of the live stream, and I appreciated your text yesterday. That kind of clarified stuff up. I was at work, so I wasn't really able to respond too well, and I need to look into that more. That might be a special live stream, because right now a lot of people are about to lose their SNAP benefits, and there's also a lot of elitism and classism that's going on in regards to all that. Excuse me. That was a coffee burp. Anyway, so let's get into it here, shall we? The farming crisis, in my view, from what I'm able to see, I feel like it's going to become a huge problem. But you can obviously decide for yourself. So there are several different layers to this bean dip here. So this happened, and this was a while back. This is about a week ago. Right now, Trump is touring through Asia, doing God knows what. I'm not really concerned too much about that. I'm really concerned about what's happening here at home. So this happened recently, and this is where I'm going to start. So I like to start with Trump posts. Of course, he posted on Truth Social the most wild thing. He said, "If it weren't for me,
If it weren't for me, the cattle ranchers would be doing terrible like they have the last 20 years.
Let me give you his exact words. He's basically browbeating these like hardworking ranchers to lower their prices, as if the ranchers or the farmers themselves can control the prices in the market. Anyway, this is what he said.
The cattle ranchers, who I love, don't understand that the only reason they are doing so well for the first time in decades is because I put tariffs on cattle coming into the United States, including a 50% tariff on Brazil. If it weren't for me, they would be doing just as they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. They'd be doing terrible. It would be nice if they would understand that, but they also have to get their prices down because the consumer is a very big factor in my thinking also.
So here's the thing. Regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of a politician's political affiliation, I think it's really fucking annoying when other people project onto you how they want you to feel. Like, that's annoying. I think we can all agree about that. Trump is going here and basically saying, you know, oh, the reason that you're doing so well is because of me. What a narcissistic fucking asshole. Like, how about you let the cattle ranchers speak for themselves? If they say that they're doing great, great. If they say that they're not, okay. But see, this is the thing. When politicians project and put their words onto other people, it instills this idea that they're not trustworthy. And rightfully so. So it's just this thing where I wish we could live in a world where we don't have politicians that are trying to like manipulate us and hoodwink us into telling us how we are allowed to feel, you know? And that goes for regardless of your political affiliation. I think that we as Americans deserve better from our leaders. Our leaders should not be telling us what to feel or how to feel, but asking us, hey, how do you feel? That's just me, okay? That would be the type of leader I am. I'd be like, look, you know, how are you doing? You know, but I think a lot of politicians like to try and like manipulate and hoodwink in order to achieve a certain outcome. And Trump does that. He tells his base how to feel about certain things, and then they are lockstep in line. Like, oh, Trump tells me that we're doing so great, so I guess I'll trust him. How about you look at it for yourself and you're like, oh, actually, not doing so great here. And see, that's the thing. Part of what I do is like, you don't have to agree with me, but I'm trying to give you agency. You don't have to agree with my take or my opinion on something, but think for yourself, dude. Look at it and think for yourself. If you're a cattle rancher and you're looking at this, or if you're a farmer and you're looking at this, you would notice like, hey, it would be nice if they would, he said, it would be nice if they would understand that, but they also have to get their prices down. If it weren't for me, they'd be doing like they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. The thing is, cattle ranchers, farmers, they don't control the prices. They don't. That's the middlemen. That's the corporations. A lot of farmers sign contracts to buy seeds and fertilizer and equipment and go through all of that. They can't just willy-nilly control the prices. I, as a very, very urban person, will tell you, that's not how it works. Now, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert when it comes to rural America and farming. Yes, I am a southern person, but I grew up in a southern city. So I don't know that whole culture. I don't know the lifestyle. I don't know all of that. But what I can tell you is there's a lot of large investments that go into farming. There's a lot of large investments. So for Trump to basically be like, you need to get your prices down. Who the fuck are you to tell other people, oh, you just need to lower your prices and then it will be better? How about you actually do some regulation on the corporations that have been leading to consolidation upon our food chain? Let me tell you what I mean here. So while he's basically telling cattle ranchers like, oh, you need to get your prices down, meanwhile, he's also throwing a big middle finger to the idea of buying American beef or buying local beef. So just to put this in perspective, the United States is trying to do Argentina a solid, where they are now allowing an increase in the threshold of importing Argentinian beef. So, you know how you've probably heard, oh,
you've probably heard the saying, oh, well, now we're buying $20 billion worth of beef from Argentina, or we're buying 40 billion in meat. Well, it's a little bit of a misnomer, because with all of this, there's no like direct government expenditure. So it's not like the US government is saying, hey, here's $20 billion for Argentinian beef. Like that's not how it works. What it actually is doing instead is the Trump administration confirmed plans to quadruple the low tariff import quota. So they have an existing quota saying, okay, we're going to allow for this much beef to come in. Well, they quadrupled that quota. So with that, now the United States, instead of trying to buy local, instead of trying to buy like American produced meat, instead we're actually importing a lot of stuff now from Argentina. Which, as me, coming from like the sustainable development... Sorry, hold on, my phone is getting hot and I need to like take it out of my case. Hold on just a second. Me coming from the sustainable development kind of side, you know, where I'm looking at environmental, social factors that go into the supply chain and processing and stuff like that. It's really good to buy American. It's good to buy local, support your local communities, support the local producers. And like, this is just a huge middle finger to allow for that kind of thing to come through. Like, oh, we're going to quadruple the threshold now. So basically we're allowing us to buy like all this Argentinian beef. But here's the thing. I asked Grok, I said, hey, has Trump planned to import Argentinian beef? How much money will it cost? Are farmers upset at Trump for not buying American beef? Yes, the Trump administration has confirmed plans to quadruple the low tariff import quota for beef from Argentina, raising it from the current 20,000 metric tons per year to 80,000 metric tons per year. This policy, announced by the White House on October 23rd, aims to increase the beef supply in the U.S. To address record high consumer prices. For example, ground beef averaging $6.32 per pound, which is up 14% since Trump took office. Now, what's really, really funny here and interesting is, importing Argentinian beef is supposed to bring down the prices for people at grocery stores. But does that actually work? Does that make sense? The answer is no. It really doesn't, and I'll tell you why. So they're saying, oh, well, we're importing all this beef to bring the prices down. Except there's a huge problem. Right now, the beef, like, packing industry, the whole market is very, very much an oligopoly. You have 4 companies that control 80% of the market. JBS Foods, Tyson, Cargill, and National Beef. So you have 4 companies that control 80% of the market. Well, when you have less competition, what happens in capitalism when you have less competition means that you are going to have those groups more than likely collude with each other in order to then price gouge their customers, because they all win. So, for instance, when you have 20 different options to buy a car, then what happens is you have a lot of different competition. Each company is going to try to set a very competitive price. But then when you consolidate, with consolidation comes less competition, meaning that they can basically charge you whatever they want. Because all 4 of those companies profit if they all raise their prices. So they're like, okay, well, I could be the lowest price here and people will go to me, sure, but why don't we all collectively decide to raise our prices by 20% next year? And if we all do that, then we all can make more money. So when you have less competition, it means that there's going to be more price gouging. Let me explain it a little bit further here. Hold on. So consumer savings are expected to be minimal, as analysts doubt the influx only around 2% of U.S. beef supply will significantly lower retail prices given meat packer consolidation. So this ties the broader U.S. support for Argentina, blah, 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 blah. So all that being said, when you have so much consolidation right now in the industry,
it makes it hard for these people to compete. So, rightfully so, you have far right-wing propagandists like Tommy Loren also being rightfully upset by this, because this flies in the face of trying to, and the idea of trying to buy more American-made products and local-made products. I don't think that, regardless of your political affiliation, that anyone is going to be against the idea of buying American products or buying local products. Like, we're all on the same page there. We just have different approaches, I guess, on how to do that. But she says, you know, why the fuck? Why would we buy Argentinian beef? Our American ranchers are getting crushed already by cheap foreign beef imports. You know, this is an outrage. So all of that being said, there are a lot of people who responded here being like, this is what you voted for. Why didn't you tag Trump? You know, supported a convict and get conned. I'm so shocked. And y'all, if you're enjoying the live stream, please make sure to send some likes. Also, this person and this other person here, rightfully so, reposted a tweet from her being like, this is what I voted for, with all these exclamation marks. So, and that's also a thing. To these like Republicans, you may not have realized, but you did vote for the kind of crap that we're seeing. Now, if you were hoodwinked and fooled, you're like, oh, well, this isn't what I thought I voted for. There you go. See, that's the thing. Like, you say, this isn't what I voted for. No, it is what you voted for. But it might have not been what you thought you voted for. Because Trump is a con man. This is my view. You can disagree. Trump is a con man. He literally cons people. He hasn't paid out people who did work for him. You really think that he is like loyal to his word? He uses his followers as little cogs in the machine to benefit himself. For heaven's sake, he's trying to get the DOJ, the Department of Justice, to pay him personally like $250 million. This guy is literally, if you want to be against looting, you want to be against robbery, this guy is low-key like looting and robbing America. And you can be a conservative and admit it. That's okay. You're like, yeah, this guy's kind of crazy. It's okay. You can admit that. He is a con man that is ripping off America. But in addition to all of this, if you really want to look at it, you're like, okay, well, why is he going out and buying Argentinian beef? Why is he breaking these tariffs in order to allow for more Argentinian beef to come through? Well, probably has to do with the fact that he's trying to help out Argentina. You want to know what MAGA really stands for in my view? Make Argentina great again. Because here's the thing. He's quadrupling the low tariff quota in order to get more beef into the United States, for the purpose of trying to bring down the price. But that's not how it works. Let me show you how a tariff actually works here. And I hope that this, for those people who are like, yeah, I hear the word tariff all the time. What does that even mean? What does that even mean? Okay, I'm going to give you an example of how it works. Make sure to send some likes. So a tariff is actually pretty simple. It's literally just a tax on an imported good. It is a self-imposed tax. So the United States is basically taxing imports from other countries. So if China is trying to provide us like oil or cars or other exports and manufactured goods, a tariff is when we as the United States actually put a tax on that to come in. These tariffs do not go to paying other countries. We are not taking money from other countries either. A tariff is a tax on imported goods, but it is a self-imposed tax. So it's a tax on the American it's the tax on the American people who are handling those imported products. So American businesses, for instance, if you are an auto manufacturer and you source parts from Mexico or Canada, well, if you import certain parts in order to be manufactured here in the USA, those are subject to tariffs.
So tariffs are taxes imposed by one's own country on goods imported from another country. So it's the United States that's basically taxing the American companies handling it because it's an imported product. So let's take the example of cars. This is how tariffs work. So let's say in the United States and Canada and Mexico, you have a car that costs $45,000 at the end of sale for when you go to the dealership and you want to buy a car, okay? Let's all say that it's exactly the same price. A tariff, what it does is it's a self-implied tax on imported foreign goods. So let's say that there are cars that are made in Mexico or made in Canada. Let's say that we put a tariff on those cars. For instance, you see 25% on foreign-made cars. Well, you tax $45,000 by 25% tariff. That's $11,250. So when you add that increase up with the $45,000, you get $56,250. You following me? So this is what it's supposed to look like in theory. In theory, the United States, they're going to continue to sell the cars at $45,000. Meanwhile, Canada and Mexico's cars are going to be more expensive because they're subject to the tariff. Thereby, which leads the American people to then go and buy the United States-made car. That's what it looks like in theory. What often happens in practice is corporations see an opportunity to price gouge. They see an opportunity to raise prices. They are like, okay, we're going to be the cheaper option, no matter if we're at $45,000, $47,000, $50,000, because hey, we're not $56,000. You get what I mean? So American corporations were like, okay, we're going to see an opportunity to price gouge. This is often also what happened during the pandemic. Because of the supply chain issues, corporations saw an opportunity to make more money, to price gouge in that instance. So if we put a tariff on those cars, great, it might alleviate and get some very, very short-term investments in America. Sure, I'm not going to disregard that. But what often then happens is it also raises the prices. And who pays this cost? Who pays for the tariff? It's the American companies. It's the American people who are handling those imported stuff. It's not the other countries. It's not Canada. It's not Mexico. They're not paying the United States. No, it is a tax on ourselves. It is basically the American government getting more money from consumers and those businesses. So you see an opportunity to price gouge. That's what it does. Because, hey, if we raise it by, 8% for 48,600, hey, that's only 8%. It's still less than 56. Or it will still be cheaper. They'll still be cheaper in Canada if they raise it up to 54 because, hey, it's not 56. So you can see how these tariffs, in theory, is what it's supposed to do, but often in practice, it falls short of execution. And so, all that being said, in addition to, like, the White House being like, hey, we're going to import more Argentinian beef. We're going to import all this Argentinian beef that's going to be cheaper. It's like, it's going to lower the prices for American consumers. Well, that's not exactly how it works. Like, because you also have consolidation in the meatpacking industry. So, for instance, the big four companies, you have JBS Foods, Tyson, Cargill, National Beef. These are all meatpacking and manufacturers, beef packing, okay? So you have 4 companies that control 80% of the market. If one of them fails, it leads to a huge amount of market instability. But because you have 4 companies that control 80%, that means that they can do under the table deals, be like, all right, let's all collectively raise our prices by 20% because we all win. We all win, So that often happens too. And in response to Trump's post, basically browbeating people, saying, if it weren't for me, the cattle ranchers, they would be doing just as they've done the past 20 years. Terrible. The cattle ranchers who I love, who I love, don't understand the only reason they're doing so well for the first time in decades is because I put on tariffs on cattle coming into the United States. But, those ranchers, they also have to get their prices down because the consumer is a very big factor in my thinking also. Let me read that last part again. It would be nice if they would understand that, but they also have to get their prices down because the consumer is a very big factor in my thinking also. He's basically thinking that the ranchers, the farmers, can control the prices. Like, what the hell? What the hell? So, and there were people on Truth Social even that were like, Mr. Trump, that's not how it works. Like, that's not how it works. So let me get to some of those responses here. Cattle ranchers are price takers, not price settlers. Prices are a function of supply and demand. We had the lowest U.S. cattle herd since 1950s, blah, blah, blah. There simply aren't enough cattle. If there are any gouging of the consumer, it comes from the corporations. The price settlers are the packers. It comes from them. Which, yeah, that's true. Better talk to the middlemen because that is who is in control of the pricing. Please look into antitrust enforcement and deregulation in the agriculture industry. Most of the damage done to ranchers was intentional due to monopolistic practices. Then please do the same in financial services and industries. Then you have the people who are robots and just will praise Trump no matter what. This guy is like, Mr. Trump, I know you already know the big packers have a monopoly on the beef industry and manipulate the market to their benefit, and I believe that you have a plan to fix that problem. He does not have a fucking plan to fix the problem. He doesn't care. He uses people as cogs in a machine for his own benefit. Doesn't matter if you're his supporters or not. That's what like liberals and leftists and progressives are at least trying to communicate to you. They're like, look, you don't have to like us. We don't have to be friends. But also, Trump is a con man. He's ripping you off. If you're a supporter of his, he is literally using you like a pawn in his game, in a machine for his own benefit. Like, and then he was like, that's just my 2 cents worth. Thank you, real Donald Trump, for excelling the hardest job in the world. Oh my God. So disgusting. But it continues onward here. Cattle prices are set at the auction by the bidders bidding against one another from a limited supply, not by cattle ranchers. Liar. You just put so many ranchers out of business importing banned infected meat from third world Argentina. Okay, we don't need to go down that route of being a little bit more racist. But their point is like, hey, why are we buying beef from Argentina? And you know what's so funny? Like a broken record, you know what he blames beef prices on? Biden. Biden had many faults. But the fact that, like, you've been in office for a year now. You said you would get prices down on day one. So were you lying then? Or are you not able to do it now? And see, that's the thing. There are many people who don't take Trump seriously, and it's disgusting in my view. Like, you don't have to agree with me, but for the people, I think it's damaging if you say that you're gonna be like, I'm gonna bring prices down on day one, and you don't do it. Like, what the fuck? Now, I think that's an outlandish thing to promise, but you've been in office for at least a year now. You can't just be blaming everything on your predecessor. You know? But Trump is like a broken record. That's all he knows how to do. So, in addition to all of this, let me also add this in here. And this is new. So I didn't talk about this yesterday. This is new information. So, you all know JD Vance, our vice president. JD Vance, who tries to be funny, but bless his heart, really isn't, okay? He has had very wild moments, I'll say. JD Vance, our vice president, like, during the campaign trail, I don't know if you all remember, this was back in, like,
this was back in 2024 when he was on the campaign trail. He said that he was like, yeah, I had a Mountain Dew today. I'm pretty sure the liberals are going to call that racist too. I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, but he says weird stuff like that. This is also a guy who is really cringy when he tries to order donuts. So that's just kind of who he is. Well, there was this moment that happened yesterday. Basically, these Republican senators told the Vice President, J.D. Vance, that Trump's beef deal was an insult to farmers. And let me give you the inside scoop here. Vice President was bombarded with questions from Republicans about the agreement to ramp up meat imports from Argentina, which they fear could adversely impact American ranchers. Vance was told the deal was an insult to American livestock farmers by at least one unnamed senator attending the weekly policy gathering. And this is all according to Andrew Desdiro of Punchbowl News, who was in the room during this whole thing, who cited multiple attendees in a post on X. This is the post. Inside the Senate Republican lunch, by the way, for those people who might not know, GOP, just when you see GOP, that just equals Republican. And for those people who do not know, it's okay. It's one of those things that journalism doesn't do a great job at explaining. GOP stands for Grand Old Party. Grand Old Party simply just means Republican. So unless you're like super politically knowledgeable about all the different terminology, then you would know that. But trust me, it's totally okay if you didn't know it. And that's what gets me, and this is just a little side rant, that's what just gets me so frustrated about American journalism, is they will just use the American journalistic language and expect people to understand it instead of actually explaining to people what it all means. So inside the Senate Republican lunch with Vice President Vance, Vance was bombarded with questions about Argentinian beef issue per multiple attendees. Republican senators told him it was an insult to farmers and ranchers. Vance at one point joked, quote, "Okay, does anyone have questions not about beef?" At a time when this is a big issue, for you to be like, okay, does anyone have any questions not about that subject? If there is a crisis going on, and then you were to be like, yeah, does anyone have any questions not about the existing crisis that's going on? It's like, that's so fucking tone deaf. Oh, I see a super chat came in. Hello! You're speaking my language. Oh, thank you! I appreciate that. What, English? Rhea Pamilia, thank you. I appreciate people who validate my work, because it's like, okay, sometimes as a weird little thing, I do these live streams usually just on my own in my car. So it's kind of trippy when you look and you see 480 people in here, and it's like I'm just sitting in my car on my own. So it's like, is it even real? You know, like it's really, really trippy sometimes, but it means a lot when people actually like, yeah, people I haven't heard from before, like, yeah, you're really speaking my language, or you're making a lot of sense. It helps me feel like I'm not alone. So, and that's honestly what I try to do. Like, you don't have to agree with my opinions, you don't have to agree with my takes, you don't have to agree with my approach to things, but like, I'm glad that I can help clarify and make some sense to people in regards to the craziness that's happening. You know, that makes me feel fulfilled. So thank you for that. Who is JD Vance's sponsor and mentor? Is JD Vance his real name? I actually don't know. I don't know what you mean by sponsor and mentor is. I mean, mentor, I understand, but sponsor, like, sponsor as in what? Because I'm a little confused on that front. I think JD Vance is short for something, but I don't actually know. I don't actually know his full name. But thank you for the super chat. I enjoy the knowledge and experience you bring. It's refreshing and needed. Oh, thank you. You're never alone, and there are people out there who think like you. Aw, they should release the files already. 100%. Oh, Peter Thiel. Yeah, that's very, very fair. Yeah, Vance does make money off of bankrupt farmland. Yeah, Peter Thiel. God, I should do a whole live stream just specifically about Peter Thiel. Because yeah, that's crazy. He said he's a U.S. Marine. He had multiple aliases. I don't know if he was a Marine or not, but so I can't speak to that. Wow. You know what? Okay, I'm going to take a second here. It is amazing. It is amazing that the comments are not full of homophobic crap. Let me literally just take this moment in. Most of the time when I'm doing my live stream, the comments are just full of homophobic crap. People just being nasty for the purpose of being nasty. The fact that it's not right now, literally, it's not like full, like constant things. It's like, wow, that's nice. You know, because like, it's so weird that people only, like, I'm trying to talk about like farming and people are like trying to be all obnoxious about my sexuality. It's like, that's not even the topic at hand. You're weird. Aw, thank you. That's mean. That's mean said. Huge shout out. I appreciate your work even though I just found it. You have a brethren in Dallas. Aw, a brethren. Honestly, I kind of I'm thinking about, I would love to go to Dallas, okay? This is we're getting a little bit off topic here. We'll get back on to talking about farming, and we're also going to talk a lot about soybeans in the next segment here. But let me tell you one little niche thing I have. I've thought about trying to go to Texas to find a man because I really like Latino guys. I really like I like Latino guys. And so I know there's a lot of Latinos in Texas or Florida. I live in North Carolina, so it's still a southern state in that sense. But one of my like scenarios or dreams would be to like find a Latino man whose mom has like a super artisan, like homemade like recipes that I can cook with her, and we can chismosa, like we can gossip. Oh, that's like a dream scenario of mine. But anyway, chismosa means gossip in Spanish. So anyway, that's just a little funny thing. But I appreciate you saying that. Maybe I should make my way down to Texas. Thank you so much. That's mean. That's a funny name too. That's mean. No, that's my username. That's mean. That's so funny. That's so funny. I found boyfriends, plural, thruple, in Dallas. They are swimming here. Texas Bear Roundup is a great way to meet people. Texas Bear Roundup? Oh. Texas Bear Roundup. Okay, when you said Roundup, I'm thinking of like the poison that kills weeds. You said Texas Bear Roundup, and I'm like, no, don't kill the bears. Is anyone also in the same lane? They're like, when you heard Roundup, that's what I heard. I was like, Texas Bear Roundup, don't kill the bears. Smokey gonna come over here and have an aneurysm. Yeah, so anyway, I appreciate you so much. That's mean. You're awesome. Hold on. Is there a way for me to subscribe to you without like ending the live stream? Hold on. Channel activity. Oh, I don't know. Okay. I'm gonna if you comment on a video, I'll make sure to like subscribe and like all that stuff, because anyway. So thank you for being here. All right, let's get back onto the subject here. So I appreciate all of you. Now, with all this being said, during this whole conundrum where these Republican senators are like, hey, JD, what's the deal with the president importing all of this beef from Argentina? You know, like that goes against the idea of America first. That goes against the idea of buying local or, you know, supporting American-made products. You know, Biden's initiative was Buy American. And Trump's is the idea of America first, which, in my view, and you can disagree, is often tied in. The idea of America first ties in the idea of supremacy, like white supremacy, which is very problematic. That all being said, these Republican senators are like, okay, so JD Vance, why are we quadrupling the threshold to import Argentinian beef? And the theory is that, oh, it's supposed to lower prices for consumers. Well, we know that's not true because we have huge consolidation in the meatpacking industry, as we talked about earlier. But in addition to all of that, basically, these Republican senators were saying, hey, they were addressing all their concerns, and JD Vance tries to joke and be like, okay, does anyone here have questions not about beef? Imagine, okay, that's like going into a hearing to discuss the government shutdown, and then Mike Johnson being like, okay, I hear all your concerns. Does anyone have any questions not about the government shutdown? Like, what the fuck? Like, that if your house is on fire, God forbid, and there is a huge panic about like what to do, is the fire department on their way? Do we need to save people? Are there valuables, women and children nearby? All this stuff. And then it's like, okay, y'all, does anyone have any concerns or questions not about the fire? That's not the time to bring up. And see, this is the thing. It's like, this is what dishonest politicians do. If there is a crisis or a problem or a conundrum, what they'll try to do is, oh, let me just try to deflect the topic so that it doesn't hurt me more politically. How about you be a good fucking leader and a good human and actually address it? If I was in that room and people were coming to me, I'd be like, okay, I hear your concerns. What do we need to do? Do we need to develop an action plan? I hear your grievances. These are your main concerns. All right, what are your action steps? These are some action steps that we could do going forward. And that's just being a good human. Anyway, so that all happened. And let me just give you some people's takes on all of this. Some people's takes on the post here on X, Twitter, whatever it's called. Where's the beef? In Argentina, it's vital that Americans support hardworking Argentina farmers. MAGA, make Argentina great again. This message brought to you by the Trump administration. Vance represents Silicon Valley big tech. Trump bailed Argentina out because of big tech investments there. I heard something about that, but I'd have to double check that before I tell you that's true. Vance doesn't give a shit about anyone but his bosses in California. I mean, I can't speak to the validity of that. He thinks farmer bankruptcies are funny. People's livelihoods are not a joke. 100%. These people actively fuck over American people and just laugh at them. Yeah. It's all a big joke to them and the rest of Trump's friends. That joke sounds about right for Vance. I don't think that Vance has quite figured out the meaning of a joke. He's such a hilarious comedian, like when he buys donuts. Can't believe people fell for this clown. What's in the water in Ohio? Ohio is near Michigan, so I don't know, maybe the same stuff in Flint, but then also Ohio did have, East Palestine, Ohio, did have that big train wreck, and so they're still recovering the environmental damage of that. But, I'm not gonna say it's like, that's cause and effect in that sense. Obviously beef is not his strong suit. A lot of people saying, where's the beef? Funny, Yaley, is there any such thing? It's not a joke to farmers or shoppers strapped to afford groceries. 100%. And this isn't the only thing that's happening. So while this is a huge part of the farming crisis right now, I want to also talk about another aspect of the farming crisis that's really, really bad. So I'm going to shift topics here and talk about soybeans. Let me shift topics here and talk about soybeans. Have you all heard of the whole thing going down with soybeans right now in America? Let me take a sip of coffee real quick. Hold on. Yes, I am drinking Dunkin' coffee. I'm actually surprised Dunkin' coffee is honestly pretty decent. Just saying. That's just my view. You don't have to agree. I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I want to say, isn't it refreshing to have, like, someone who will share their opinion on something and then say, you don't have to agree. Like, and that's the thing. In this day and age, people try to force their opinions on you. And of course, I want you to agree with my opinion, like, as a human. But don't you think it's nice when someone is not trying to actively, like, push that upon you? If you like Panera coffee and I like Dunkin' coffee, that works, okay? And there's a difference on what is up for debate versus, like, what is up for interpretation, what is a valid opinion and not. But, like, I just want to say, like, I think it's important for us to encourage, you know, having that kind of, like, okay, you don't have to agree with me. When it comes to things that obviously hurt other people's human rights, then, like, that's a little bit different. But anyway, does that make sense? I feel like I didn't enunciate that very well. There are certain things that are up for debate and there are certain things that are not. So, like, people's human rights, or we have facts, data, statistics, science, like hard information. That's not up for debate. That's up for interpretation. If you and I look at the same set of facts and come to two different conclusions, okay, I'm going to tell you that you're wrong, but the information itself is not up for debate. Your interpretation, your approach, your opinion based on that is up for debate. That is what is so dangerous about this political moment. Because there are some people that try to take the objective facts at hand and make it up for debate, like it's some sort of choice. No, it's not a choice. Like, you can't just, I acknowledge the facts. No, you have to acknowledge the facts. Like, anyway. But let's shift topics here and let's talk about soybeans. Have you all heard about what's happening with soybeans here in America? So, for those people who just need a little bit of a little knowledge here, there are a lot of American farmers that are panicking right now because of what's happening with the soybean trade and soybean market in America. For those people who did not know, soybeans are 14% of our agricultural export. That is the biggest one out of all of it. Soybeans are the top U.S. agricultural export. You might think that it's corn, but actually, like, corn is only half of soybeans. Like, soybeans are the biggest thing that we in America grow. I don't know about that. I'd have to double check because we also consume a lot of corn, but that's the biggest thing that we export. So we export a lot of soybeans, particularly exporting a lot of soybeans to China. Well, because of what has happened with the tariffs, Donald Trump put a tariff on China, then China responded back and put a tariff on the United States. It's basically stopped the soybean market. It stopped the soybean trade. So let me show you a graph of what that looks like here. This is what it looked like. Soybean sales, U.S. soybean sales to China. Well, in October, it was going up and up and up. And then it was like going down and down and down and down and down and down and down. And this is the point in time where it's now supposed to be going back up, because it's around the time when you have, like, there are natural ebbs and flows of how soybeans are sold. So, like, in certain months it goes down, in certain months it, like, it goes up. But at the same time, this is what it looks like now. So because of what's happened with the tariffs on China, and they've put tariffs back on the United States in response, it's basically obliterated the soybean market, which is a huge problem because there are all these farmers that have put in all of this work to cultivate, grow, harvest soybeans, and they're all dressed up and they have nowhere to go. So soybean farmers are upset with Trump due to significant financial losses from his trade war with China, which severely disrupted exports. Many feel betrayed by the administration's decision to provide a large financial aid package to Argentina, which, in addition to everything we talked about with cattle, Argentina also is a huge grower of soybeans. And guess who's buying soybeans from Argentina now? China. So these tariffs have basically made it hard for our cattle ranchers and obliterated the soybean market. And who wins? Brazil and Argentina. Due to these actions, who wins? Other countries. So this idea of America first obviously was a fucking lie. Of course, I can tell you that as a progressive, as a Democrat, like, of course it was a lie. But it's even worse than you would imagine. So I said, have soybean exports from the United States to China fully stopped? Why? How do tariffs play into this? I asked this to Grok. Make sure to send some likes. I appreciate every single one of you. We have about 30 more minutes and then I have to get to work. I seriously love and adore every single one of you. I know that soybeans aren't as much of a sexy topic as other things, maybe as meat, but stick with me here because this is important. We are in the midst of a farming crisis because if this happens, like, farm revenue could severely decrease, food prices could very much go up, and it leads to a lot of supply chain instability, which could be really, really bad. I personally don't have a lot of people I know that work in farming, but this could be a huge problem. So I asked Grok, I said, hey, what's the status of U.S. soybean exports to China? As of October 29th, U.S. soybean exports to China have effectively stopped for the current harvest season, with no shipments recorded since May of 2025. That is wild. We have not shipped any soybeans to China. None. They are our biggest purchaser. This marks a near total halt, dropping from 12.6 billion in value, over 50% of the US soybean exports in 2024, to just 218 million bushels through August of 2025. So that's down more than 75% year over year. These tariffs have basically imploded the entire soybean market. And you're like, wait, hold on. How much of a big deal is this? Soybeans are our biggest export crop. Donald Trump has completely destroyed the supply chain in less than a year. That's honestly remarkably terrifying. And so September saw zero imports for the first time in 7 years, and peak season sales, typically October through December, accounting for over half of annual exports, show no revival. Year-to-date imports totaled 16.8 million tons. But this masks the collapse in trade, with Chinese buyers front-loading from alternatives, shunning the U.S. crop entirely since spring. So what's interesting is you have China is no longer buying soybeans from us. They are buying soybeans from other people. And so you want to know who those other people are? Brazil and Argentina. So why have these exports stopped? The halt stems from the escalating U.S.-China trade war in Trump's second term, where soybeans serve as a high-leverage bargaining chip. China, the world's largest soybean importer, needing around 100 million tons annually for animal feed, oil, and food, relies heavily on imports, but has strategic stockpiles estimated at 45 million tons, enough for 2 years of U.S.-level supply. Beijing ordered state-backed importers to stop U.S. purchases in May as a retaliatory tactic, targeting Trump's political base in Midwestern farm states, Iowa, Illinois, and Minnesota, that supported him. This echoes the 2018-2019 trade war, when exports plunged 78% and required $12 billion in U.S. farmer bailouts. Continuing on here, the U.S. harvest peaks in the fall. So yeah, that's going to be happening now. But China has now shifted to Brazil. Exports are up 2.4% year to date, which I'll show you what it looks like already. And Argentina up 31.8% to 2.9 million tons, whose seasons align better with China's first half needs. Brazil hit record highs to China through August, covering 95% of October demand, plus 15% of November's. So basically, because of these tariffs, which are a tax on imported goods, we put a tariff on China, they put a tariff on us. Their tariff on us has made our soybeans unaffordable for them to purchase. So they say, okay, well, who doesn't have tariffs? Brazil, Argentina. Let's buy their soybeans. So we have fully like divorce text China. We have fully sent out divorce text being like, yep, we don't want anything to do with you right now. And China's like, okay, I'll get my soybeans from someone else. So America has soul-heartedly basically like fucked up the soybean market for farmers because of these tariffs. And so total U.S. agriculture exports to China fell 73%, $6.8 billion loss in 2025, with soybeans hit hardest, projected $5.7 billion shortfall through October alone. Prices dropped November futures from $10.35 a bushel. Storage shortages loom, and farm recipients could hit a 2007 low. The American Soybean Association warns of financial precipice, with some states declaring soybean price crisis emergencies. And this is how the role of tariffs actually played into this. Tariffs are the core trigger, weaponizing soybeans in a tit-for-tat escalation. So this is the timeline. Trump imposed a 30 to 50% tariff on Chinese goods, all Chinese goods, starting in February, up from prior levels, targeting steel, tech, electric vehicles, trade imbalances, national security, all of that. He threatened an additional 100%, totaling 150% tariff, unless Beijing concedes on issues like fentanyl, precursors, and TikTok. What's interesting is that Beijing hit back with 20 to 34% tariffs on U.S. agricultural products in March and April, making American soybeans uncompetitive. So this is what happens. When you tariff another country at a huge rate, they hit you back with another tariff. So we put a tariff on China for a lot of their imported goods. They hit one back from us. Meaning that if they wanted to buy our soybeans because of the tariff that they put in place, it's not affordable for them. So they say, okay, American soybeans, we're not purchasing them anymore. Where can we go for lower cost alternatives? And so they turn to places like Brazil and Argentina because they're like, hey, their prices are cheaper. Their prices are cheaper. To give you a full sense, let me show you some graphs here. Soybeans are awaiting Chinese buyers. This is what it looks like, the new soybean export sales. So we, as the United States, this is who we've exported our soybeans to. In 2020, 2021, over half of all of our exports for soybeans went to China. 2021, 2022, saw a little bit of a dip. That was also probably a little bit because of the pandemic. And you can see here it's ebbed and flowed. But ever since, it's been going down and down and down and down. And now, in 2025, 2026, because of the tariffs, we don't even have a market. So basically, these farmers have grown a whole bunch of soybeans, harvested them, maintain their equipment, maintain their farms. They're all dressed up. They're just put in silos. They have nowhere to go. That's a huge economic loss. This is one of our staple crops. And like this, it's just crazy what's happened. These tariffs have completely imploded the economy for American exports of soybeans. So right now, America is like, okay, where can we export soybeans to? Well, I don't know what ROW stands for, but it looks like we're keeping strong with that. There's also unknown. And I guess we're trying to export more soybeans to Mexico. But, you know, we also demonize them in other ways. I don't think Claudia Sheinbaum is particularly happy to take more American soybeans. Like, you see what... So, all this being said, we've completely imploded the supply chain. Meanwhile, Brazil decides to pick up the slack and say, okay, China, you need to buy a whole bunch of soybeans? Great. We'll fill in for you. So you can see here, Brazil's total soybean exports versus U.S. shipments. Going up. You can see here monthly Brazil soybean exports versus exports to China. You can see how a good chunk of Brazilian exports are now to China. And China's share of United States Brazil soybean exports, that's just another graph. There's another one I wanted to show you. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where'd it go? I can't find it right now. But you get the gist. So basically, these American soybean farmers are really, really pissed. So, soybean farmer who backed Trump feels strain of China's boycott. This guy, his name is Scott Gaffner, a lot of farmers supported Trump. These are like farmers in red states. And so, a great majority of soybeans coming from this area would be going to China, but not this year. Not this year. Nope. We can't help but feel very anxious, wondering why it's taking so long to get this resolved. Gee, I wonder. It's because Trump doesn't fucking care. He doesn't. Not at all. He uses you like pawns in order to get what he wants and then spits in your face. Gaffner says farmers like himself who overwhelmingly voted for Trump are caught in the crossfire. Asked about whether he's angry, Gaffner responded, well, whenever you see the administration meet in Spain, they talk about TikTok instead of farming. When we're getting ready to harvest, our clock is tick-tocking away. Yeah, it's because they don't fucking care about you. They never did. The Trump administration is considering a significant financial aid package for farmers. But what's interesting is many farmers are like, yeah, we don't want a financial aid package. We want the market back. And this is exactly what he ended up saying. We don't want the aid. We want the trade. If China starts buying elsewhere, which they're doing now, once they establish those trade routes, it becomes more difficult for them to come back to the United States to buy their commodities. Think of it as a relationship. If you broke up with your partner, and then all of a sudden you realize how much you want them and how much you actually miss them and you want them back, it's kind of hard, especially if they've moved on. I don't have any personal experience because, little secret, I've never been in a relationship. That all being said, in a serious one, that all being said, the United States, we broke up with China. We said, nope, we don't want you anymore. We're going to put tariff on all of this. Now it's going to be hard for us to be able to have our soybeans go elsewhere. We were basically trying to play hardball, and China was like, fine, screw it. Screw it. We don't need to buy your soybeans. And then we're like, what? You're going to break up with us? Yeah. So once we lose that, we may never get it back. And that's huge for the next generations. And you have a lot of people in Ohio in particular that are really struggling because for those people who might not know, Ohio is actually the biggest exporter of soybeans. They grow a lot of soybeans in Ohio. So Ohio soybean farmers left high and dry as Trump's tariff tornado obliterates the China market. It's kind of an interesting way to describe it. And there are a lot of people who are getting super anxious about it. It doesn't help that China, in response to imposing trade tariffs on China, slapped a 35% retaliatory tariff on U.S. soybeans. Well, when you mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. And let me give you some other examples here. These farmers all voted for Trump in this election and all previous ones, but they never would again, even if they could, because they're all about to lose their farms because of his stupid tariffs and him ending subsidies for farmers that Biden has a safety net for them. And it's funny because if you go and look up Trump farmers voter regret, you'll see all of it there. And so holy crap, the farmers are waking up, but unfortunately it's too late for a lot of them because they will lose their generational farms because they believed in Trump and now he's backstabbing them with his tariffs instead of selling them their soybeans. And so this is his this is a post on X. Meet Warren Bachman, a longtime soybean farmer, grows a great crop to feed the world, but after all that effort, he could barely give it away. Yup. After doing his part, the market just says, no thanks. And the plot twist, he voted for Trump. So when tariffs, trade wars, and lost buyers hit the bottom line, who is really at fault? It's very fair. Another soybean farmer just broke ranks over Trump's trade war. We don't want a bailout. We want the freedom to trade. They're watching decades of market access vanish overnight, and some say they may never recover. This wasn't a strategy. It was a trade war stunt dressed up as patriotism, and the American farmers are paying the price. And there are people that are like, look, I'm sorry, I have nothing for them. They were told that if you go right, you'll get run over. And if you go left, you'll thrive. And they chose poorly. Thrive might be, a strong word, but, at the same time, that's just me. I want more progressive policies. But like, and they said, and I'm sure that they would vote for Trump again. We're not anything that would benefit the middle class. I know I read that wrong. And I'm sure the reasons they voted for Trump were not anything that would benefit the middle class Americans. Very true. It's difficult to pity Trump voters when their common thread is, I know he'd fuck people over, I just didn't think it would be me. And that's also very true. A lot of people who voted for Trump are like, well, at least I'm not going to be affected. Where's your fucking empathy? Let me give you a story here. And this is actually like a personal story of mine. I was raised in a very Christian conservative Southern home. And when I was starting to like come of age, I had a good talk with my older brother. And we were just talking. I was a MAGA. I was literally like, I was a conservative when I was in high school. And that's because that's the way I was raised. That's what I always was told to believe. So that's what I just did. And my brother and I had this conversation, and we were basically talking about voting and representation. I said, well, you vote for what you want to vote for, and I'll vote what I want to vote for. And he said, well, I said, I vote for things that benefit me. I want you to vote for things that benefit you. And he goes, okay, I understand that, but why don't you vote for things that benefit all people? And I was like, well, I'm just going to vote for what benefits me. I hope that you vote for what benefits you. Like, it completely just went over my head. He goes, I understand that, but why don't you have empathy for other people? You're like, well, I said, well, it's not bad of me to want things that benefit me. It's not bad of you to want things that benefit you. And like, it just didn't get through my head that it's very, very valid and important to vote for things that benefit everyone. So, and he said, okay, Scott, I understand it, but like, why do you have the inability to have empathy for other people who might be struggling with problems that you might not be facing? I said, well, why should I care? And he goes, because that's what being a good fucking person is. And I was like, oh, you're right. Like, it took me a second because I was so self-absorbed with only trying to vote for things that benefited me. So then I started looking at how other things affected other people. So I'm not a person of color, but I started listening to conversations. I started looking at issues like police brutality, started looking at criminalization rates. I started looking at the enforcement of it. I'm like, oh, wow, that really does hurt that population. I'm not a woman. I don't have a uterus. I don't have the capacity for pregnancy. I'm not trans, but I started listening to people who had those experiences, and I'm like, oh, crap. Like, what? So it's about extending empathy for other people. And so it's interesting. This all goes back to these farmers. These farmers were like, oh, well, it doesn't hurt me, so I'm not going to care. I'm still going to vote for Trump. And this person gets a spot on. It's like, look, it's difficult to pity Trump voters when their common thread was, I knew he'd fuck over the trans people. I knew he'd fuck over the immigrants. I knew he'd fuck over the women and their bodily autonomy. But hey, it doesn't touch me. Except it does. Because you don't realize that you are in a group that he is going to inevitably affect negatively. But you just didn't see it coming. So you said, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to care until it affects me. Well, it affects you now. These terrorists are going to destroy your livelihood. Hey, you own the libs, but now guess what? The government's about to own your farm because it's about to be repossessed.
I voted to be racist, not poor. You know, it's just, yeah. Farmers in Uruguay and Argentina are doing better than ever. They are not going to abuse their new customers. America will never get those customers back. Better get used to that fact. And now that I own the libs, the oligarchs get to own my farm. That's very, very fair. So that's a little bit of the soybean crisis that is really bubbling up here. So anyway, I need to get going here in just a couple minutes, but I appreciate every single one of you. I really, really do. I hope this live was enlightening for folks. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that it was helpful to understand, and it means a lot to me that you all are here. I know it, like, oh, that's so cheesy. That's so, like, but seriously, I appreciate every single one of you. It means a lot. Super gay. Oh, is that my superpower? But like, it means a lot that you all are here. I hope that the way I explain things, and I don't feel like I was as like precocious or precise with how I was explaining everything today, but I hope that the way I break things down is really helpful. If you want like a quick little nutshell, Trump is browbeating the cattle ranchers to lower their prices when they are not the ones that control the prices. It's the corporations that price gouge people, which corporations use tariffs as an opportunity to price gouge people. So in theory, it's supposed to bring back domestic manufacturing, but in practice, what it does is it actually raises prices for everyone. The foreign countries that we tariff don't pay the prices. It is a self-imposed tax. So the tariffs are actually a tax on American consumers. In addition to all of that, when you slap a tariff on China for all of the imports that come from materials, electric vehicles, all that stuff, they slap a tariff back on us for our soybeans. Yeah, that means our soybeans are going to be unaffordable, which is going to lead to us as a country not able to sell them soybeans, even though they are our biggest market for it. So due to these tariffs, it's completely collapsed the whole entire soybean market to the point where soybeans to China exports used to be over 50%. Now it's zilch. So you have all these soybean farmers that have cultivated, worked so hard to harvest all these soybeans, maintain their farms, maintain their equipment. They have to put all these soybeans in silos and they have nowhere to go. And it's going to lead to a lot of economic disaster for these farmers. And this is all self-imposed by the American government. This is a man-made crisis by Trump. That was the entire live stream today. I hope that all that information is helpful. I would encourage that you share this with other people. Listen to other people's experiences and stories on that front. And I'm personally super worried also about how this is going to hit the supermarkets as well. And this is not even to mention everything happening with the SNAP benefits expiring and also the government shutdown lingering and continuing. I mean, it's just crazy. Oh, look, it's a little fall latte. Oh, so cute. Thank you, Art Gabriel. Scent latte. Ooh. It was going to happen the way I see it. The stage is set for agricultural reform rather than to continue running down a shrinking market. That's also true. So anyway. Also, there's also a whole thing about farm bankruptcy that I should dive into, because Donald Trump also changed the rules around who can like own farms and farm bankruptcies. Farm bankruptcies are often how farmers actually restructure and get money. So it's like a whole thing. And I'm trying to dive into it a little bit more and learn more about it before I speak to it. But I appreciate every single one of you. I really, really do. Even if you don't appreciate me, I appreciate every single one of you. So shout out to my amazing moderators in here. Akicha, Kate, Cherie, Elisa. I love all of you so much. Ellie, Joanna Tech, Kantisa. I think I got everyone. Akicha, Jenny,
I cannot do this live without my amazing moderators. And shout out to all the amazing people that tune in. Also to all the people who gave super chats. Y'all are incredible. Does it like allow me to look at the people who did super chats? I'm trying to tap it and it won't do it. Is there a way for me to like look at that? Is there a way for me to access who gave super chats? Maybe. Anyway, I appreciate every single one of you. I need to get to work. I love all of you so much. Just remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are valid, you are strong, and you are fierce. Don't let anyone or anything ever dim your shine. I love all of you so much. Bye!